Okay, hey, and welcome to another episode of Talkin Video. I'm your host, Chris Noble, and really excited today to be talking to a good friend of mine, Laura MacKinnan. And Laura is a yoga instructor in Toronto here in the GTA. And she's got a great journey. I'm excited to talk to her more about how she's gone from wanting, not maybe wanting nothing to do with video, but just having no interest in doing her own video to going into full-fledged yoga instructional videos throughout the pandemic that we're currently recording this at the end of July in 2020. And so she's got a great story and a lot of great insights to the wonderful people watching this podcast to pass on to you guys. So without further ado, Laura, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited and prepared.
Yeah, I know. And you got lots of gear to talk about, and you got your light there that we're seeing. And little does the audience know that below the frame of Laura's shot here, there's lots more gear that she'll be pulling up, and we'll have a good chat about that. So
And
that's
maybe
great.
Cats as well.
Well, we're hoping some cats make it into the shots. I've got my money on that. So All right, so let's start off with talking about when it all started. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it didn't start during the beginning of the pandemic. Maybe there was something that happened before to get you into video. But when did you start really getting serious about filming your yoga instruction?
That's completely right. That it started at the beginning of the pandemic, where I thought like, oh man, I need to get onto YouTube ASAP, just to be able to still be out there so that my students could take my classes and have that connection with them still. So that was pretty much it. It was the pandemic hit. I wasn't teaching classes in person. One of the studios I was working for did start doing Zoom classes, and I realized almost right away as well that I didn't have like a great gear to film a live class. So that was the beginning of it all.
And okay, so let's take everybody through, how it started, because I think the nice thing to know, and this goes for myself and anyone that gets into video, it's not like you figure it out right off the bat. It makes perfect sense. Your videos are flawless. Like, that's just not the case. It doesn't happen that way. And I know that there's many times like I'll have my camera set up and it falls over in the middle of filming, or, things don't go according to plan, and that's totally fine. It's all a part of the process. So when you first started making these videos, how did that go for you? Like, what was the process?
It went poorly because I had been on a lot of on-demand platforms that have fitness and yoga videos for years. And I knew, I even watched like really quality YouTube videos, and I knew what I wanted my classes and my videos to look like. I just didn't know how to make them look like that. So when I watched it back, there was so much frustration. Like, why is the lighting so yellow? Like, the audio is terrible. And I would reach out to friends, and I tried to do research on YouTube, but like, funny enough, there's a lot of tech videos out there, but none of them seem specifically geared towards someone doing movement, fitness, yoga. Specifically for audio, I was having a really hard time trying to find out what mic is gonna work for me if I'm moving. So yeah, the struggle was real at first.
Yeah, right. I remember you were sending me some awesome videos of some of the outtakes, and I mean, outtakes I love it. I personally I know I'm a big Jackie Chan fan, and when he was doing his movies, every time at the end of his film, he shows you all the times he screws up, and it's hilarious. It's it's all part of the process, right?
Yeah. But I mean, the difference is though, like, someone can just go right back to where he was and take it from there. Whereas if you're filming a whole class, unless you're really good at editing, you kind of have to have one perfect take, and it could be an hour class and you're filming it all the way through. And it's like, unfortunately, unless you've got an editor or you are a good editor, it has to be like one take. I did a class one time at the beginning and just like completely forgot to do a single pose on the second side of a sequence, and that class was then garbage. Like, I'd already taken down my whole setup, and I was like, I don't think I could just film that one little bit and try to plug it in without it looking really inconsistent. So yeah, you have to be like really prepared, know your stuff, and then try to do it in one take.
Well, let's get into that. So I before we even get into the gear that you're using, when you say let's be prepared, right? Well, what does that mean to people, right? Is that scripting the way that you're going to be doing the lesson? Are you doing like bullet points? Like, how do you prepare for a lesson now?
Yeah, so when you are teaching a live class in studio, you might have a plan of the sequence, but you have a lot of room to kind of like edit it as you're teaching based on what you're seeing in the room, the level of the students. But when you're doing a live video, like I really have to stick to my sequence and know it and have it totally memorized. And I would say that the people that I work with that do dance classes also are the same. Like they know their routine and they've got it down. And as well as being prepared, this is one of the things I really had to learn at the beginning and from watching other people's videos, that you need to know which direction you're going to be moving, or like the extent of the direction at any given time. So some of the videos at the beginning, I would take my arms over my head and my hands would be cut off, and I would be doing some sort of cue where it was like hold a wrist, and people cannot see your hands. So you have to do like a little tester beforehand so that you're prepared to know like the biggest movements you're doing in all directions, to the left side of the mat, the right side, back and forth, just so that you don't watch it back after and you're like, my head was not in frame for that whole part. And it's just a body. So yeah, just playing around beforehand to make sure that you're going to be in the video the whole time.
Yeah, framing, right? Something that we don't really think too much about, but it's such a, it's simple. It's just something you got to learn from doing it. And I think that's another thing where it's just people get, they think it's got to be perfect right off the bat. It's not. And the whole point is to do it, film yourself. And then you're going to be like, oh, I was, like my head was cut off and I'm barely in the frame. And okay, well, at least now I know how to frame that better. And you learn from your mistakes, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I still watch some videos out there of people teaching like Instagram classes, and you could tell right away they didn't just do like a quick, 1 minute practice of the poses to make sure that they were in frame. And like, keep in mind, when you're filming for Instagram, it's going to be in portraits. So you have to know that you've got like more room above you and below you, but not so much out to the side. So you've got to adjust. And then same thing for when you're doing landscape for YouTube or most online platforms, like you need to be far enough back that you can take the arms all the way up, be your tallest self, and still be in frame.
That's a really good point. Different platforms, different aspect ratios, as they call them, right? Different frames, right? Like we're on right now. This is sorry?
Is that what they call them? I had no idea.
That's the technical term is an aspect ratio. So, your cell phone, when you film it vertically, that's a much, it's a very different aspect ratio. That's the Instagram story kind of aspect ratio. And then, your YouTube is what we got right now on Zoom here. We got like a horizontal, I think that's like a 3:2 aspect ratio. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day for everyone watching. It's just know where you're filming and adjust your filming accordingly, right? So just know what platforms and how they look, and then again, trial and error, but you can kind of go from there. I would love to get into the equipment that you started to, and that you are using right now. So once again, you bring up a great point, right? So how many, videos are out on YouTube describing how you can film this and that, but not a lot speak to yoga or movement, dance lessons, whatever it is, right? Where there's likely some sort of a, attached mic that's wireless, or maybe it's not, but like, what can people, what do you use? What's your setup now?
So ideally I would like to use natural lighting, and from everything I was looking into, natural lighting is always the best. But right now, I've got the windows behind me, and because of, and like, I know a lot of people will kind of understand this, small space in Toronto in apartments, sometimes you just cannot get the natural lighting without like your kitchen behind you, and you want to have the clearest possible background. So ideally natural lighting, but I always have it behind me, so that creates a lot of shadow. So what I started off using was just what we had at home, which was these old soft boxes, because my partner is an actor, and they had, I think, halogen bulbs, which were really bright but hot and also very yellow. So my first few YouTube videos were very, very yellowy, and I was sweating a lot, like just not ideal for any sort of movements, hit videos, whatever it is. Like they're really, really hot. So I don't recommend after trying those a few times. And then I ended up giving them away to my good friend, Chris Noble, which hopefully he repurposed them.
Which I appreciate very much, because I have a wide range of uses for them, but it's true. It looks like now you've switched to LED, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I did my research, and these guys were ideal for my situation. This one's a newer that brand,
I
newer.
think German, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. LED panel, and it has. I think this one is 600 LED lights, and I also have another one which is on me right now, which is a bit bigger. So I've got two for filming, and that one's got like 960 lights. But what I found was really key because of my setup and being able to like balance the light was to get a light that had the ability to balance the yellow and white. So at the back here, you've got kind of like a dial where you can make it whiter or cooler or warmer, I should say, depending on the time of day. And yeah, I also noticed time of day for lighting really came into play when I would watch back videos and I would say like, why is this one so bright from behind me? And that's because I was filming at like 4 o'clock, getting direct sunlight in, and it would almost create this hazy effect in the video, which I didn't want. So choosing a time of day to film that worked best for the space was like a game changer.
It's so key. Time of day. I'm just finishing up, although I'm sure by the time this podcast is airing, I will have my e-course available, but I just did an episode. One of my lessons is lighting, and one of the best kept secrets for cinematographers is time of day that you're filming. It changes everything. If you film middle of the day, like you said, sometimes there's this haze. The sun's very high in the sky, which actually creates a white light. The color of light during midday is white, and sometimes that's what you want, but it's more harsh, right? It's just like it's a bright white kind of light. And then if you film at sunrise or sunset, you've got this yellow, orange, sometimes purpley, beautiful, like romantic, nice, like that's the lighting you see, in those epic cinematic moments, and when they're about to go into battle or they're riding off into the sunset or all these, dramatic moments in film, almost always sunrise or sunset, because the color and the way the light's positioned, it just looks completely different on the subjects, right? So it's a good point, the time of day. And when you're positioning your lights, I know you've gotten pretty good now with lighting an interior space, and that's actually something a lot of people, and even in film, it's not an easy thing to do. So how do you light your apartment now?
I would say I'm still not a pro, and I probably need your course because like certain times of day, I still get a bit more shadowing behind myself than I would like, but I have them both coming in kind of at diagonal angles. So, and one is pointed more towards the ceiling to bounce light off the ceiling onto myself, because I was finding when I was watching it back and I had one light at my face, it was like very bright on my face, to the point where like when I would look towards the camera, I'd be squinting a lot. So yeah, I kind of angle them in and one more up towards the ceiling. As well as these blinds back behind me, when the light is coming from behind me, they were picking up when I had the blinds up. I thought it was a great idea to get natural light from behind and LED lights from in front. However, you could see in my older videos the reflection of my lights on the windows. So you'd see this big like orb in the windows behind me. And I was like, oh yes, well, the blinds will have to be down then. It was just so much trial and error of watching it back and being really nitpicky and trying to play around and see what I could change. I also didn't realize, and I'm sure you're like, yeah, that's an obvious thing. I film on my phone, which is an iPhone 10. I was watching back my videos and getting really frustrated when I would go through the inconsistency of the light. So say at the beginning, it's nice light coming in and then there's clouds passing by and then it goes darker. And only like a couple months into filming did I realize if I held my finger on the screen before recording a video, the iPhone will lock. It's like automatic exposure, automatic focus. You'll see a little box that comes up that says AE/AF lock. Therefore, locking in exactly the light as it is in that moment in the focus so that the video is going to be consistent all the way through. And that was also another big eye opener for lighting.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's okay. First of all, everyone's got a different environment they're filming in, so you have to do trial and error. Like I could give, like when I'm in the e-course, I'm giving basic advice because like you're going to experience. Like it's just different. Everywhere you go is a little different. So the way you're lighting it by bouncing off the ceiling, that's a great idea. But then sometimes the second light needs to maybe be closer so it illuminates you. But then in some spaces that might cause way too many shadows. So you got to play around with it. But when you're filming with the iPhone 10, you know, and I have a couple of other friends who are doing a lot of their they're working with all their clients now just purely on their phones, doing video on the iPhone. It's fantastic. It's like when I was in Egypt last year, working on a documentary, this filmmaker from New York. I mean, this is a big budget documentary, and this guy is filming 60% of his footage on the iPhone 10. 60% of a big documentary done on the iPhone. So anyone that's got these phones and stuff and they think, oh no, it's not as good quality, think again. It's absolutely amazing what you can do. And that's a great tidbit. So you know what Laura discovered was there's automatic exposure and automatic focus on these phones, but you can disable that. I think on even older models you can disable. So do your homework, see what the parameters of, you know, your computer or your cell phone is, and see what happens. But you know, good on you for experimenting and seeing what works, what doesn't work. I didn't know the iPhone had that capability, but it makes sense.
Yeah, it was really, it really changed the look of the videos to lock in that exposure and focus for the entirety of the video. Because, and I mean, you'll still probably see some amateur YouTube videos out there where there's like changing in the background, but overall it wasn't very pleasing to look at, to see it like really bright at some points. And then if you dragged your cursor along, it got dark and then bright again. So to have it consistent makes it look a bit more professional, I think.
100%. Now let's get into the audio side of things, because I know that was a really tricky thing, and it's, you know, I'm sure it still is.
Wait till you hear what I started off doing.
Well, let's hear it. What happened? Why did you start?
So at the beginning, I was just so focused on lighting, especially after the whole yellow light box kind of fiasco and changing that up. So then once I had my lighting down, I realized people were commenting, students, friends, like, your video, it's really quiet. I have to have my device all the way up to be able to hear you. And then I was like, oh, right, audio is just as important as lighting. So my partner had a lav mic, but it was not wireless. But he had an extension cord. I used to plug it into my phone and run the cord along the apartment underneath the couch. And then the lav mic was hidden in my couch cushions, just kind of sticking up. You wouldn't notice it in the video, but I couldn't have it on myself because it was wired and ran all the way to my phone, which was pretty far back. And if I were to turn in different directions, I'd get tangled in it. So it was in the couch cushions at first. And the problem with that, it did provide better audio than when I wasn't using a mic at all, was that if I was facing a certain direction, it was picking up my voice really well. But in fitness and yoga, you're going to be turning your head in lots of different directions. So when I was facing backwards, there was a huge difference in the volume to when I was facing towards the couch. So that's what I started off with. I would recommend for beginners, like a lav mic should be good enough. However, you have to get a wireless one. And with that comes needing a wireless transmitter and receiver. So tech time?
Yeah, tech time.
Tech corner with Laura.
The new YouTube channel. It's in the infant stages, but by the time you guys watch this, it'll be worldwide.
So when I was researching, these little guys came up quite a bit at first. They're the Rode Wireless Go's. They are about $300 Canadian, and they will do the trick when you're starting out. Not a lot of people in their reviews online were talking about how they worked for movement practice of any sort. And like, we'll get into that in a sec, I guess. But you don't need actually a mic with these, because not only are they a transmitter and receiver, but they're also a mic in one. So they're super, super tiny. They're easy to clip on anywhere. Like, they've got a little clip at the back. One, which is the one with the screen, is the receiver, and you'll put it closest to your recording device and plug it into that. And then the one without the screen is both the transmitter and it's got a little mic on top. So it's super handy. So my original videos, I would just clip it onto my shirt and it would pick up where I was talking, but they're not, I guess, omnidirectional. So when I was turning my head, there was still a little bit of a difference in quality and volume. And I don't know if you wanted to watch maybe a blooper using these. So the problem that I found just using the clip-on mic, depending where it was on your body, was that different poses bring you into different shapes with your body. And at some point you might be blocking the mic. I saw one of the instructors that I work with who does dance do something really cool with this. He clipped it onto his hat. So in that way, it couldn't be blocked at all. But yeah, I don't know if you want to watch a little video or I could
Oh,
just.
I think I would love to see a
Yeah.
blooper here.
All right.
You can just screen share and we'll do it that way.
Will do.
Yeah, while Laura's figuring that out,
Oh, it says host disabled, attendee screen share.
Oh, I totally.
Let me screen share.
Let me figure that out. While I'm figuring that out, you know, I think when you're saying things like lav mic, that basically that means that it's a clip-on mic, right? And so that's what Laura's doing. That's really helpful with obviously movement and stuff like that. But did you see, before you found this Rode model, were there other ones that you had seen online that were like almost but not quite?
Yeah, I had seen some that I couldn't name them by brands, but they were getting okay reviews. And I thought this was kind of like a good in between. Like you've got the Sennheiser wireless system up here at like $700 to $1,000. And then you've got really low end ones. There was Ceramonic came up, but the Rode Wireless Go's had really, really good reviews. And again, like you can start off and these are all you need. You don't even need the clip-on lavalier mic because this is a mic. But you just have to be really, really aware of pushing your body up against the mic or your hair brushing against it or clothing.
Okay. That makes sense.
So like this is a really good, they're $300 and that's like, I know a few instructors who are using these now. It's a really good way to start off. But keep in mind, if you're using it with a mobile device, you will need a few different adapters.
And that's a good point. Just do your own research when you're looking at any of this gear because different phones, different adapters. So just do a Google search and go from there. I made you a host, so that should be able to allow you to screen share. This is me learning more about Zoom every time. And if not, oh yeah, there we go.
All right, cool. Oh, here, I've labeled this video mic fail because it is exactly that. So just to set it up, out of a 1 hour video that I was shooting, and this was not in my home, it was a rented space, which is like, if you've got an option now to rent a more open space than your home, that's great. You can do that. So out of a 1 hour video, I was playing it back and caught about 60 seconds.
So leave the left arm underneath.
I don't know if I can open the video itself.
You might select in the screen share, like you might have to then open the video and then screen share the video. Depends.
Double click.
Yes.
All right. There we go. So out of a 1 hour video, there was this blooper here.
Exhale, weave the left arm underneath your right arm. Come down to the back of the left shoulder.
That's lovely.
Thank you for sharing that because, it's just it's so important for people to see, a lot of the time when you see these, oh my God, these look great online. You're like, yeah, but there's a process. There's a process to learning these things. And sometimes you have to just distort the hell out of your mic. Have it fall off or whatever, right? These things happen.
And that was like, it goes to preparation, which is like, put your mic on and do a quick 60-second kind of like walkthrough of some of the biggest movements you're doing, some of the things that come to mind, like folding in half, and then just listen to see if the mic is picking up any sort of like shirt rustling. I was able to fix that and like watch your videos back because I almost just sent that off to the studio that I was filming it for without watching it. And I don't know if they would have thoroughly gone through, like it's not exciting to watch back your video and watch yourself a full hour. But if I hadn't, I wouldn't have caught that like brief 60 seconds of blocking my own mic.
Yeah, that's a good point. Always review it, right? As pain in the ass of it as it is, it's also a way for you to learn, always improve, and then catch, things that might not go over too well, right?
Yeah.
So let's continue on the tech train here.
Yeah, if you wanted to kind of like upgrade these little wireless Go's, you could get a Rode lavalier microphone. So this is the kind that would clip onto your shirt, wherever you want to put it. And then you would clip it into your little transmitter, and then this can just go onto your pants. Less chance of blocking the mic, I would say, with these mics. If you're doing movement, it is a good idea to just remove the little, I call it pop socket, but what do you call it? The little fuzzy thing on top.
The little fuzzy thing. It helps eliminate wind distortion. Usually that's when they have it. So if you're inside, who cares?
Exactly. what I found was this was only making it more likely that it would pick up my shirt just brushing against it and really blow out that sound. So I just would remove this while filming. And this works okay as well, but you still have to be aware, like when it's on your shirt, that you might end up touching the mic. So after that whole mic blooper, I decided I wanted to up my audio, and I thought I could just get a head-worn mic and use it with the Rode Wireless Go's, but they're not that adaptable, I guess. Like not a whole lot of mics work with them. It doesn't have a locking mechanism where a mic would go in. So a lot of the mics that do have a locking mechanism are loose in there. So I splurged and got this sick. It is the Samsung SE50 head-worn headset. I highly recommend for doing any fitness videos, any yoga videos, having a mic that is really close to your face that either goes like over your ear or behind your head and over both ears. I've had not a single issue with this. I can like turn myself in all directions, hang upside down. The only thing, if you have longer hair, is to be aware of like your hair getting tangled or brushing up against the mic. But this works beautifully, and no matter what direction you're turning your head, it's going to pick up the audio so clearly. It does have a 3.5 millimeter locking mechanism at the end here. So that's why it wasn't working with my Rode Wireless Go. So then I bought a second set of receivers and transmitters, and these are the Rode Link ones. By the way, with the Samsung SE50, I think this guy was like, I might have how much it costs, but it was a good kind of middle of the road option. Like if you look at certain brands like Countryman, which is used more so in the industry, yeah, this was $275. They're very expensive, the other mics, like $1,000 for a head-worn mic, a good one. Read the reviews that people have, because there's lots of head-worn mics out there on Amazon that are like $50 and they don't have great reviews. So there's, I don't know, in my opinion, no point in investing in something or not even spending the money on it and then watching a video back and your audio's garbage. Like,
yeah, audio is a huge area where, it's funny. It's one of those, another trick where everyone thinks, oh, I got to get my image looking as amazing as possible. Actually, like statistically speaking, people really don't care about the image quality. They do, but they don't. Like if the content's there, I can see what I need to see. I'm going to likely still engage with the video. If the audio's crap, it's like they're done. There's just nothing. Like there's no forgiveness, where you can have a shaky camera, you can have kind of lighting, but if your content's on par and it's what people are looking for, that's fine. But if they can't hear you or that mic's distorted, forget about it. Like your audience is gone.
Especially important in yoga and fitness when you're doing cueing, when you're asking people, maybe they're down on their backs and they're doing some sort of core work. Chances are at that point in time, they're not going to be looking at the video. They need to be able to hear you so clearly. So that was like really, really important. Like, as you said, people will tap out if at points in the video there's popping, there's static, the audio is not loud enough.
Yeah, or they've got the volume cranked because it's so quiet, and then all of a sudden there's this like kind of distortion. Like, oh my god, my ears just blew. Like, thanks a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with a wireless headset, again, you still do need like a transmitter and receiver. So these guys are a lot bulkier. That's the Rode Link wireless system. It is bulkier to put onto your pants. I would just say if you're filming side towards the camera, try to have it on the side that's not facing the camera, and you can kind of just be aware of your mic pack as you're moving and move it in different directions so you don't smush it. But like these ones do work with the headset that I mentioned. And if the batteries are dying, they take, I think, AA batteries. You can just swap them out. Whereas the Rode Go's supposedly have about 7 hours of life, but we've been filming nonstop through a day and they have died, and you just have to recharge them and wait. So it does kind of interrupt your filming when you can't just swap out and put new batteries in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Audio gear.
Perfect. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to see you got that headset, because it's so true, right? Like, again, you got to look at what are you recording? Like, what kind of videos are you making to assess what kind of gear you need to get, because it's just, there's no standard. The only thing I could say that's maybe a standard is that I think for pretty much anyone's video production needs, you could film on a cell phone. But then the questions become, where's the audio? Is it just from the cell phone, or do I need a mic? And then again, the lighting, right? Do I need LEDs? Can I use natural light? When am I filming? These are all questions that I'm sure you'd agree. Like when you first started, you don't ask yourselves these questions, right?
No, it's not until you watch back your videos and kind of see certain things that are wrong that you ask yourself, what do I need to do to fix this and to improve it?
So another thing that, I know people struggle with when they're making video especially when the first time, is getting in front of the camera. Because getting in front of the camera, and I'm sure your partner can attest to this as an actor, it's exciting, but it's terrifying all at the same time. And maybe and I know for a lot of people, it's just pure terrifying. There's no excitement. It's just straight up like, oh my God, I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. And one thing I always say is that nobody does. First of all, even actors, my friends who are actors are very nitpicky with how they sound and look. And yet they do it for a living. So what would you say to folks who are thinking of just starting to get in front of the camera?
I think just get comfortable. So I was kind of allowed to get comfortable filming at home, but actually my first experience filming before we were in total lockdown was with one of the studios I work for. They asked me to film some content, and that was like my first behind the camera experience with these lights at me and people behind the camera watching me. So it felt like a lot of pressure. They're gesturing to you behind the camera, time to wrap it up, and you're panicking and you're looking in all directions. It was awful. It was so terrible. If you can practice at home, so you can at least get comfortable, you're in your cozy environment, speaking to the camera, watch it back, notice like your eye lines. Like at first I was screen mirroring to my TV to make sure my body was in the frame the whole time, and you can see me glancing towards my TV a lot. So yeah, like film yourself often at home. It does just take practice. Like same thing with when you're teaching in front of a class full of people live. The first few times it's kind of terrifying to have people looking at you. And I think what appeals to people online for content is being yourself and sharing your personality. Like the yoga videos, the fitness videos I like to watch online, like the instructor has a bit of personality. So I always try to add a little intro to my videos where I'm speaking more directly to the camera, and like just setting it up. So I recommend doing that if you can. And those ones are the hardest, when you have to look directly into the camera and just speak. And that's where I have the most amount of bloopers. But if you're filming at home, you can have 50 takes. It's okay.
Yeah, it's a good point. Start somewhere comfortable. I think that's a really big thing. And we all have that opportunity now. So there's really no reason why you don't need to start this whole process at home. And it's true. Maybe we can just elaborate a little bit more on the online, like live audience when you're doing your instruction to people on, let's say it's a Zoom call or whatever, platform you're using. How do you find, I know and I'm sure the first couple of times it's really tricky, because I know a lot of people are struggling with this right now, which is how do you engage with people through Zoom, especially when you're the one leading an instruction?
Yeah, it's funny on Zoom because some people aren't comfortable turning on their own videos. So you do just kind of feel like you're talking to yourself, but you have to just kind of think of this unseen audience out there the same way that making something for YouTube or an on-demand platform, there's an unseen audience. Like eventually someone's going to be watching it. So, even if no one's answering back and you can't see them on Zoom, you can still be like, we got this, guys. Like giving people that you cannot see or hear encouragement. Just trying to think that there are people out there doing whatever activity it is with you. If they do have their videos on, I do try to approach the camera, or actually do have a second device where it's closer to my mat, so I don't have to leave my mat to check in. And you can just be kind of looking and giving alignment cues to the people that you can see. You can often see people's pets walking by, and you can kind of be like, oh, we've got a cat joining us today.
Yeah, I guess engage, like the thing with live too is to engage, right? Like it's to acknowledge like those little things. Oh, the cat just hey kitty, how's it going, or whatever, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's not as fun again if people don't have their videos on, and you might be teaching to a group of, like, I have a corporate class. They don't like to turn on their videos. Straight up, one of the students told me the other day, like, I'm not wearing much, so I'm not turning on my video. And I was like, okay, great. Glad we cleared up why. That's cool. But just, yeah, try to think about them being there and doing it with you. If you can't provide specific feedback to people because you can't see them, you can just say general things like, I know it's tough to hold the leg up a little bit higher. Let's see if we can lift it. Like just kind of making it a we.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so yeah, before we wrap things up on the podcast here, I would also like to touch on after you've stopped filming. So when you're done filming your lesson, what's the next step for you? Because obviously there's a process from stopping recording to uploading to YouTube or whatever platform, right?
Right. Well, so I don't have that many videos up on YouTube. As soon as I started working with certain platforms, I tried to go for more content people would have to subscribe and pay for. But yeah, reviewing, we talked about that earlier, making sure you're watching the full video through for any, and I would watch it right away, because if there's something that you need to go back and fix, like I've made the mistake, like I said, of taking down my entire setup. And then for consistency, you can't get back onto your mat or into your space and try to make it look the same once you've taken everything down. So like right away, watching it back. For editing, I do film like a little separate intro where the camera's up closer to me. And then I'll splice that together with the rest of the video. Just newly learning fade in and out at the end of the video. And my partner initially was helping me with that, but iMovie, recommended by Chris, has been good. Uploading to YouTube, it takes a long time. Be patient. Anyone who's ever tried to put up a video on YouTube, super annoying. Downloaded, I think it's called YouTube Creator, which is the app. Have you used that?
Yeah.
YouTube Studio, sorry.
YouTube, yeah, Video Studio and video editor. YouTube's even got a video editing function in it if you want. There's, like Laura said, iMovie. If you're a Windows or PC person, Windows Movie Maker, I believe, is the PC equivalent of iMovie. It's so easy. I learned as a 9-year-old on the first ever iMovie ever how to edit video, and it's been solid ever since. You know, like it's a free program. If you've got a Mac, use it. Once again, if you're a Windows person, Windows Movie Maker, just throw your stuff in and start messing around. And as Laura's discovered, fun things like fade to black. You know, I'm sure cross dissolve transitions will start to creep in there, and
you can add a little title in between your intro and the main video where it says so-and-so hit or yoga.
And that's key, right? Like having text and having other things to, eventually too, you can do simple things like drag and drop your company logo. If you've got a brand that you'd like to be, bookending each episode or each video. It's a very simple drag and drop. I think iMovie's even got some preset little animations you can do on these things. I mean, there's just so much. There's so much out there, and for such, like, I know I don't know what the exact price is, and I know you've gone through a lot of your own gear, but really, you don't need to spend any more than like $1,000 max on gear and equipment to set yourself up. Yes, you can spend a lot more, and you can spend a lot less, but you don't really. I mean, what I've been saying to a lot of people is that you really actually don't need any purchases if you just want to start making video. You have a cell phone, done, right? Yeah. So it just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, but natural light, I would say minimum, like try to have a mic of some sort.
If you're going to invest in a mic. I think that is your first investment. Good audio. Can't go wrong.
As far as editing stuff afterwards, adding fades and intros and stuff, great. I did notice though, when messing around with the video and trying to like say brighten it or add a filter, it always decreased the quality of the video. So for the actual footage itself, I try to not edit very much at all. Like I want the best quality footage straight after filming, and that's like the raw footage is what I use. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's smart, like make it that's a technique that even in like film is recommended. Make it look really great right then and there on location. Don't there's a phrase that gets tossed around in the film world called we'll fix it in post production, fix it in the editing process. Not a great mentality to have. You really want to just make sure you're happy with it right then and there. So that's a smart way to go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was gonna say, if you can, like I just only messed around with this recently, I can kind of screen share this little thing. If you've got like an hour-long class and you want to promote it, just for people to have little visuals of what you might be working on, it would be nice to create a little trailer, which I was able to do in iMovie. So you just pick specific spots in your, how do I do things?
Oh yeah. So like yeah,
There we go.
what she's talking
Oh,
about.
yeah. Little specific spots in your video that you want to share to give an overall idea of what the class might be like.
Let's take a look.
Let's take a look.
Let's practice this kind of funky arm balance.
This is with the lav mic clipped to my shirt.
Maybe bring that right elbow down to the inside of the foot.
Inside.
And lean back. Drop your right down. Left arm up though. Open twist. It's kind of like yoga breakdancing. Like your legs are levers.
Very classic
you might straighten one leg and pull one knee so that it taps down and switch. Thank you so much for joining me.
That's great.
Yeah, that one.
Go ahead.
Like, it's a 15 seconds if you can as well, for say Instagram purposes, Instagram stories. Yeah.
No, I love it. So I just want to piggyback on what Laura's saying there because, first of all, trailers are great snippets. So let's say you've done a long form video, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever. You want a great way to package it and use it as promo, like on social or whatever it is. It's just to do exactly what Laura did. Edit it down to like a 30-second little promo, a little snippet. You get a whole sense of what that person or that company has to offer. And you've wasted less than a minute of your time watching it. And I wanted to pull up, do you mind screen sharing that video one more time? Because there's a really great, I think, lesson that we can learn here with how Laura's put together what we would call set design, or, basically setting up the environment that you're filming in.
But keep in mind, this was in a rented studio again. Like once you're starting to kind of take it up, or you're asking people to pay for the content. We filmed that in a space that we rented.
Practice is kind of funky.
Right. So here, let's pause it for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe bring that.
Perfect. So, okay. Regardless of the fact that you rented a really awesome looking space there, that's great. It's just more like how she's laid it out. So because Laura's doing yoga and it's a lot of movement and you're trying to follow along and see, okay, what kind of pose is she doing? How is she holding her arms? Whatever, right? Well, if you look at her background, it's this plain white background, which allows her to stand out completely, with that backdrop now, right? So everything she's doing is very clear. If she had switched and filmed against that brick wall you're seeing on the right-hand side there, it would be a little bit harder to view. It still look kind of cool though. But it's like with that white, it's just so clear as day exactly what she's doing, how she's moving. It's nice and minimalistic. I really like that. And then where she's put the plants on either side, that's a nice technique in framing a shot. That's just basic symmetrical kind of a composition. Getting technical here, but basically it's just a nice way of making things look good. So she's got this nice green against a white backdrop, and then there's a bit of this brick on the right, and then the yoga mat's right in the center of the frame. She's right in the center of the frame. She's got tons of room for her arms and legs to go everywhere. That's a great example of how to frame something. So nice one, Laura. That looks awesome.
Oh, thanks. Also, this plant here on the left was hiding an outlet. So
nice.
There's like practical reasons too to set up those things that way. Just hide the ugliness behind.
That you're discovering so many little film techniques in doing this right now. These are all the little tips and tricks that we use constantly. Block the outlets. Go ahead.
What you're saying actually reminded me too of so I've had a white wall behind me. If you want to have clear shapes with your body, make sure you're wearing clothing that stands apart from your background as well. So I happen to one time, my couch is gray and it's in the background of my home videos, wear gray pants, and then watching it back, the shapes weren't as clear as I'd like them to be. And some people are visual learners, some people more auditory.
You are correct. Yes. I'm both.
Right, exactly.
Both, and it's absolutely true, right? Colors. Think about what colors you're wearing. I mean, once again, this is a whole process. I guarantee you, myself and Laura, we're not thinking about all of these things that we're talking about right now in the first video we ever did. We're just where's the record button? You start small, but these are the things you start to learn. The more you do it, right? Yeah.
And for clarity, if you can't rent a space, I just want to reiterate, really clear the space that you're in. When I'm filming my videos, it's not fun, but I roll up the carpet. I move everything to behind the camera. Certain things, you can't move your couch every time. Like I get that for sure. But having nice little props, like if you're doing wellness, fitness, some plants in the background could look really nice. But I have watched videos that there are like there's shoes in the background, a mop back there. You just want the shapes that you're making to be as clear as possible and your background to be super uncluttered.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love what you're saying because it's so true. You know, if you talk about branding or, you know, anything in that realm where it's like what you have in the frame represents who you are and what you're doing, no matter what, because people are going to judge it regardless, right? So if you've got shoes and clutter and like garbage or something, you know, going on in the background, that is just the perception people are going to get. So whether that's what you're going for or not, you got to be aware of these things. And what you're wearing says it all too. The plants in the background, like the whole thing. People have receivers always like picking things up and judging even on a subconscious level. So just knowing that, make sure you take that extra time, like look around. You know, like I usually have a painting right behind me right here. I took it off just because it's a weird abstract thing and it makes my head look kind of weird. So I when I do a podcast, I always just take down, it's like just sitting on my couch right over there, but I take that off. I mean, these are small little things, but they make a difference overall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Laura, thanks so much for all your awesome insight. I really appreciate it. And before we close things off in the podcast, why don't you let people know where they can connect with you and all that good stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So at the time of recording this, we might be going back to teaching classes in studio as of Friday. If that's the case, if you'd like to see me in person, probably with masks on, I teach at Yoga Tree Studios at the downtown locations. You can check out their website or app for live classes, and we're doing some yoga in the park as well. And then for my mostly on-demand online content, I'm with Oasis Studios, and they've got their website and they've got dance, meditation, yoga, like the works for your kind of in-home experience. So check them out or just visit me on Laura Mac Yoga on Instagram.
Amazing.
Don't judge my feed, you guys. I put no time into my Instagram feed.
Well, it's all good. Again, like we're talking about, it's all about personality and adding in your own taste to everything these days anyway. So check Laura out on Instagram. And don't worry, I will have everything we just said in the description below on this podcast. That is going to be on YouTube and other platforms like LinkedIn, etc. So, and if you're listening to this podcast, because I will be putting this out, of course, on all podcast platforms later on this summer, you can just check in any of the descriptions of this video or this podcast for all the links we talked about today. Laura, any final words for the video creators out there who are like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, I'm terrified?
It's fun once you start doing it, and just start off with short videos. Like people's attention span, they want like those 15-minute core blast kind of videos on YouTube. So like you don't have to commit to filming a full hour. Just start putting out like 10, 15-minute videos, whether it's for IGTV or YouTube, and that'll get you started.
Yeah, have fun with it, right? That's what's what's the point if you're not enjoying it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much. I'll have you stay on after I stop recording here. But for those of you watching, thanks again for tuning into another episode of Talkin Video. And we will catch you next time.